Brett and Richmond.
Mr. Speaker, Liz Cole suffered from terminal cancer. She sadly spent her final days in the emergency room of the Straight Richmond Hospital. Liz spent 6 days being shuttled around in the ER, and the situation offered Liz and her family no privacy and robbed her of her dignity. During her final days, Liz's family, who are here in the House today, tried to shield their mom from the commotion caused by the arrival of ambulances in a busy emergency room. It's a heartbreaking situation, Mr. Speaker. The Premier has recognized that it is an unacceptable situation, and I am grateful that he has spoken so frankly about it. Liz's children have written a letter to the Premier and the Minister of Health, and I will table that letter outlining their experiences today. My question, Mr. Speaker, is there are 53 people in Richmond trying to access palliative care. The Straight Richmond Palliative Care Society have identified an immediate need for 6 dedicated palliative care beds. Can the Minister commit to getting the Straight area the beds that they need today?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for raising this question again. Mr. Speaker, as I said last week, it is completely unacceptable that a Nova Scotian looking for end-of-life care, Mr. Speaker, is put in the conditions that the Honourable Member raised in this House. I spoke to her outside of this House about the report that came in. She tabled it actually in this House. I've taken the report to take back, to put in the Department of Health, Mr. Speaker, to find out exactly what is happening around palliative care and the fact that the Straight Richmond, Mr. Speaker, in all communities across this province need a myriad of options when it comes to palliative care, and those Nova Scotians who are at the end of their life and their families require the appropriate level of care, Mr. Speaker. It is tough enough to witness a loved one at the end of their life, Mr. Speaker. It is tough enough for all of us and all Nova Scotians, the family that is in the gallery, to experience that, Mr. Speaker, but it is completely unacceptable that they do that in an environment that is not one that we all want for our own loved ones.
The Honourable Member for Cape Breton Richmond.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Premier for his response. I met with the Straight Richmond Area Palliative Care Society yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to table again the proposal that is the answer for what we need in the Straight area and the Straight Richmond Hospital. It even includes a summary document to make it easier. It's all updated. They've worked tirelessly on this all night. We have watched people as they suffer the way Liz Cole and her family suffered because there are no resources, there's no plan. Where there's a plan, Mr. Speaker, that's what we need. Who can blame them for being frustrated? We've been asking since 2014. Will the Minister or the Honourable Premier direct his staff and the staff of the Nova Scotia Health Authority to make it a priority to meet with the Straight Richmond Palliative Care Society, please?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the frustration, Mr. Speaker, that the Honourable Member is bringing to the floor of the House goes back even beyond 2014, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member would know there's been no dedicated palliative care beds in the Straight Richmond Hospital. Mr. Speaker, there's been palliative care beds that end up being used in acute care. It is unacceptable that has been the case the Honourable Member has brought to this House. It is unacceptable for the families in the gallery and families in Richmond County or any part of our province, Mr. Speaker, not to be given the appropriate level of care at end of life. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable Member for bringing this document to the House. I will ensure, Mr. Speaker, that that document resides in the right hands. I also said the Honourable Member outside of this House, I would make sure she had the appropriate meetings at the appropriate time when we look at this document to ensure, Mr. Speaker, the level of care that every Nova Scotia family should expect at their time of need will be in place.